Well, after almost a month with no major uploads, several real-life distractions like job interviews, being injured, and watching my pet fish die, I finally finished my Heavensward retrospective. And it took me long enough. You know, I started playing FF14 as a direct result of the state that Shadowlands was in. I hated the way WoW was going, but I still needed an MMO to play because I am an addict. So with no other alternatives, in early June of 2021, I found myself playing the free trial of Final Fantasy XIV, and you could say I started a movement. That's right, before Asmongold, before Preach, before anybody else played 14, I was there, lurking in the shadows. I set the trend, it was me. They definitely copied me, but I'll let it slide. I was taught to forgive. But moving on, when I started playing 14, I was a skipper. That's right, I confess, I skipped every single cutscene in A Realm Reborn. Oops. I couldn't help it. My brain was hardwired into getting to the endgame as fast as possible, so I could get into that high-end content. This caused me to miss some vital information going into the game's first expansion, Heavensward. And it's not like I didn't enjoy my time in ARR, it was just kind of okay, considering the fact that I skipped 80% of it, but that would all change in Heavensward. Something would switch in my brain. I went into Heavensward, a cutscene skipper, and left with an obsession with FF14, and frankly, a new perspective on games in general. This is the story of how Heavensward changed everything. Immediately going into Heavensward, I noticed a tonal shift. Despite not paying attention to any of the game's story, something just seemed different. The setting was right up my alley. Big dragons, big ass castles, in the snow, giving off gothic Skyrim vibes. Oh yeah, and big swords. I was immediately more invested than I was hopping into ARR. And again, that's not to knock ARR, it's just my own personal tastes, and this reflects in the zones as well. Those first two zones, I know not everyone likes the cold, dead aesthetic, but it was such a tonal shift from what I was used to, and it was welcome. Not to mention how open they felt as well. One of my main issues with ARR is how linear the zones felt. Heavensward changed that. This also reflected in the Sea of Clouds, albeit to a lesser extent. That zone at least had the illusion of feeling open without flying, and the owl people are also, they're pretty cool. I like the owl people. And as a consequence of it all, I slowly found myself watching the cutscenes. I was introduced to characters I had apparently known for a while, like Alphino, Estinian, and Iceheart. I also met characters like Amherst, which made me question my sexuality. And although I didn't understand all of it, I understood enough. Dragon's bad, and it's a JRPG, so the church is probably bad as well, let's be honest. And that first third of the expansion really culminates well in the Ravana fight. The other trials in ARR didn't really impress me too much, they weren't too engaging to me, and while Ravana certainly isn't difficult, it is the first one to make me actively smile at its presentation. After that first chunk of Heavensward, I started to change my tune. Instead of hitting the escape button and skipping, I found myself at the beginning of a journey that I didn't even know I wanted. That was a really good line. The delivery, impeccable. But do you know what's a better line than that? Our channel members. Shoutouts to Cynthia Dewey, Ordinary Gamer Guy, Max B. Jones, Numui, Maybe Something, Irby-ish, Axiaris, and Beatrich. Your support means the world, I truly appreciate it. Look at those wonderful new member badges, just absolutely perfect. Someone fantastic must have made those. Nice little mustache in the corner of your icon. Also, thank you, maybe almost, for 2,000 subscribers. I don't know if we'll hit it by the time this is out. It's kind of surreal, but thank you, that's all I can say. I really appreciate it. So now, Heavensward has my attention. That's the easy part. That's not hard to do at all. It's not hard to get my attention. The real challenge is keeping it. Hey look, it's a penny. It's my lucky day. And yeah, JRPGs, they're pretty slow. Even now I struggle to sit through all the cutscenes without pulling out my phone and playing Tetris. Especially during 16, that game had a lot of. But I stuck through it, and I got to witness a pretty great journey. Estinian is definitely the character that stuck out to me the most. He had a really good arc throughout that middle chapter. Look, I saw the dragon twist coming a mile away, so when I found out the church was evil, I wasn't surprised at all. And that goes for a lot of 14 story, it can be predictable. But what sets it apart is its characters and how they interact with the twists. Estinian, instead of freaking out that his whole life is a lie, he's like, oh well.
Of continuing this war?
Nay, lady.
And he clashes with Iceheart, and despite that, still comes to the same conclusion. Based The vault was also fantastic, gave me some huge Dark Souls vibes, like, I love, ooh, the vault, oh. And despite not knowing Horsefant all too well, I could tell that if I did, I'd be pretty sad. But even if the impact of Horsefant dying was mostly lost on me, I still got to see the characters I've been falling in love with react to it. Seeing Alphinaud crushed and his father's reactions, those are very strong moments. And it only strengthened my resolve to finish Heavensward the right way, despite the terrible Bismarck fight. It was also at this point that I realized all of my friends had died right before Heavensward. That was the vital information that I missed. That's important to know. Oops. Again though, it didn't take me long to catch up, and at this point I was watching streamers go through Realm Reborn, so I almost had full context, which made the ending all the more epic. I still think that Heavensward has the second strongest final zone, the lead up with the Empire, meeting Tiamat and riding Midgard Summer to confront Thoradin. It's bad. And you top it off with a fight against a f***ing big night guy and a motherfucking god spaceship in space. It's genuinely still, to this day, my second or third favorite final boss in 14, and in my top 5 for all of gaming, for sure. And it ended with a cliffhanger as well. Needless to say, at this point, Heavensward did the impossible. It kept my attention. Even after the main story, I was still hooked. I mean, of course the story kept going, the Nidhogg fight was incredible, but instead of moving right on to Stormblood, I realized there was still more I can do. For once, I stopped progressing. And while I didn't do Alexander, I did do the Warring Triad, and that was a really good time. The fights were really good. Sophia fight's still one of my favorites. It encouraged me to go see what further expansions would have to offer besides their MSQ. And continuing on with the MSQ, I was shocked at just how invested I still was. This was the point of no return. As it would seem, the community's consensus of Heavensward being amazing was accurate. For the first time, really, ever, I was cheering at my monitor as we ripped the eyes from Mystinian to save him. And then there was more screaming as we tossed the eyes off the bridge. Like, they can still get them, dude. Like, really? Really, dude? And the story didn't stop there either. Despite Nidhogg being defeated, the build-up to Stormblood was fantastic. The Warrior of Darkness stuff was mostly okay. I really enjoyed it for the Game of Thrones serotonin. But the Griffin storyline was perfect. It blended itself well with Heavensward's story, and still has some of the best voice acting I've experienced in this game. And to have it all top off with the Omega and Shinryu fight was so satisfying, and had me very excited to go into Stormblood. Which honestly, I think that's a perfect way to do the free trial. That's very smart. Well done, Yoshi P, well done. Even better than Stormblood. When I started FF14, I was MMO pilled. I had one goal in mind, and it made the experience less enjoyable. But when I got to Heavensward, I slowed down a bit. The world began to resonate with me, and I found myself invested in the characters. And ultimately, that's the real lesson I learned from Heavensward. Patience. It completely altered what I value in games. I used to be more of a pure gameplay-focused individual, almost to a fault, but with the allure of an MMO, I was able to fully immerse myself in a world I had no intention of getting immersed in. It's helped me appreciate good stories and slower pacing, and in a weird, poetic way, you could say that Heavensward changed everything. That's the name of the video. Did you get it? Did you get it?